Welcome back, everyone. We have Calvin Rudy here with us from Wild West Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Today we are meeting Walter the Nutria. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all for having us.
Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit about Walter.
So Walter here is, as you said, a nutria. Now these guys are native to South America, but you can find them in Texas, especially in South Texas, because they're an invasive species all the way across the southern United States from Florida to Texas. They were actually brought over originally in the mid to late 1800s as a pelt animal, so just like beavers and stuff. That's what people were trying to use them for.
Yeah.
They set up fur farms for them. They escaped from said fur farms, and now we have tens of thousands of nutria across our entire coast.
Gotcha.
Now, in lots of places where these guys are invasive, it is a huge problem. They eat up to 25% of their body weight every day.
Oh, wow.
And they mostly eat roots and plants, and that is specifically plants that help prevent erosion around rivers and waterways.
Yeah.
They also live in burrows. So they'll dig all along, like in wetland areas and rivers, along flood levees. And so it causes lots of damage. And so in like Florida, Louisiana, and lots of places, they actually pay people per nutria that they turn in.
Oh, wow.
Because of the damage. Now,
They're wanted.
they are wanted. Yes, they're little criminals around there. Now, Walter here was exactly like that. He was an invasive nutria down in South Texas, where I believe another rehab or something similar had him. And obviously, they couldn't keep any more nutria, and they can't release him because he's not native.
Yeah.
And so they kind of put out a call to see if any could take him in. And we thought, he'd be a great educational animal for teaching about invasives and the kind of problems that they pose for the local environment they're in.
Absolutely. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And now we saw this cute little video that y'all had sent to us, and Walter was playing with this little toy. Is he usually that playful?
He's actually very playful, which I mean honestly surprised me whenever I kind of first met him, was around him, because when we first got him, he had a little bit of an upper sinus infection, was a little bit nervous around everybody. But nowadays, I mean, he hops around his little enclosure. We have him a little pond that we have set up for him that he carries his potatoes into and then throws them across the room whenever you go in there. So he's super playful. He's got a lot of personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what's like the lifespan of a nutria? This is actually pretty cool because I've never heard of a nutria.
Yeah, it's funny because these guys are super populous down in like South Texas, but around here we don't exactly have enough water for them to be a consistent issue. So most people haven't heard of them.
Yeah.
They live up to 6 years in captivity.
Okay.
In the wild, a nutria is considered old if it reaches 3 or 4, though.
Oh, wow.
Because these are prey animals, and they also reproduce like crazy. And so that's part of what makes them an issue invasives-wise.
Yeah.
But lots of animals like that, they lowers their life expectancy because, their gators go after them. Lots of predators and stuff go after them, but the numbers just aren't impacted because there's just so many of these guys.
Gotcha.
Now, one unique feature is his webbed feet that we were looking at.
And I will see if he wants to
trying to
hold himself up.
I hope he makes his little noise.
He's got these big old webbed feet.
Yeah, make the noise, man.
Oh my goodness, I know.
You sound like a little baby.
These guys are semi-aquatic, which realistically, they're like 90% aquatic.
Okay.
Even in his enclosure where we have his little pond set up, he spends almost all day just cozying up in there. And part of the way you can tell that he is aquatic is how his head looks. Just like beavers and capybaras, how his eyes, his ears, his nose are all like up elevated at the very top of his head. It allows him to just kind of stick that top right above the surface and breathe and still look around and everything.
So because they like the water, that's how alligators and stuff tend to get them.
Yes, exactly that.
Wow.
That is interesting. I need to do some more research into these little guys. They're really cool.
Yeah, they're super cool, and they're very cute, even though they're very problematic for the environment. They're super cute. Walter here in particular, who is, he's actually still a baby. He's not his full size yet.
Pretty big.
I believe he'll grow to another third or half bigger than he is currently. And part of that is down to the fact that he does eat 25% of his body weight every day. He is a big fan of food in general. He loves bell peppers and carrots and sweet potatoes. Those are all some of his favorite little snacks.
Didn't realize they got that big.
Yeah, they're quite large. Now, they're not quite like capybara sized, right? But they are still one of the largest rodents in the world.
Man, we can give Walter a job.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my goodness.
It is 6:22. We're still here with Calvin from Wild West Wildlife Rehabilitation and Walter the Nutria here, and we're talking about the work that they do for wildlife in the community. So and y'all do a lot of really cool stuff for area wildlife.
Yeah, we get to do a lot of really cool work. Whether that's with invasive species or like exotics that get out from people, you know, either they escape or they can take care of them. But obviously the big one is injured and orphaned wildlife.
Yeah.
And of course, the only reason that's possible is because of support from the community and from folks around here, both in the financial sense and like the resources sense of donations they make, but also in calling us and bringing us those animals. In fact, one of the big things that's going on recently is, of course, starting today is the start of Panhandle Gives.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's one of our big campaigns that we're doing because that's what helps us provide for some of our really big expenses out at the center, particularly having a full-time vet out there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some folks will remember like Cinder, the porcupine that we had. Her care, that was only possible due to having some of those vets available to us and the resources that the communities so kindly provides to us. So if anyone does feel like in the giving mood in this Thanksgiving kind of season, we are always incredibly grateful for any kinds of donations or anything people can make. Whether that's money, whether that's like sometimes like vegetables and food that you've got, blankets and stuffed animals we'll take. Walter loves his stuffed animals. So anything like that, we always really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And speaking of Walter with the stuffed animal, I think we do have that video that we mentioned in the last segment. So kind of explain what he's doing here.
So really, and this is what cracks me up too, because this is kind of the behavior I would associate with like otters or something similar, who are known for being super playful and everything else. But that is quite literally just him having a heck of a time throwing his little toy around, savagely, viciously attacking it really, like a little dog. And it just goes to show just how much personality these kind of wild animals are and have. Because I mean, even like these like herbivores and things that we don't necessarily associate with kind of being personable and having these things, they're still so individually interesting and have a lot of kind of personality in each and every one of them. And that's what partially drives us to really enjoy the work that we get to do, is that especially for our educational ambassadors who we get to have for a long time, we get to really enjoy their individuality. But even the rehab animals that we have for a short time in our care, we get to kind of see just how much individual personality every different kind of animal has.
Absolutely.
I think he's trying to get around and just hop around and explore.
He wants to get running around.
All right, Calvin. Well, thanks so much, man. Always great having you out here.
Thank y'all for having us.
Absolutely.